I was a college student doing summer work. Only worked there 3 summers. I worked for Homestake 8 summers altogether, 3 at the Slimeplant. And then also 2 years I worked on construction projects around the Slimeplant, so was there quite often. But yeah, way back in, let's see, about 61 was the last year I worked at the Slimeplant.
I came from Ball Mountain up there in Trojan. That's about 2 or 3 miles north of Terry Peak. In December 1955, and I worked in the bull gang probably a couple, 3 years. I always wanted to operate. Yeah, I always liked 3 shifts anyhow. My wife didn't, but I always thought it was a good. It allowed me to get out and be out in the woods when I had spare time between shifts and so forth. I didn't have any trouble much with the graveyard. Sometimes it's nice to see how the morning comes up, you know. And found that up there in Trojan. I like that equally well. I had a good view up there. When we got down here, it was a cluster of houses, buildings, and so forth. But
I worked there off and on. I was an engineer for Homestake. I worked for them for 37 years. But when I was a student, I was working up in Lead in the sand plant, which is a similar type cyanide treatment plant. But I'd also work with the engineers occasionally when they needed somebody to do dirty work. And that was what we did when we went down the slime plant. We'd go down and weigh the slime that was in the presses and various things in the process. We'd check on them. So
we've got some veterans over here, and they'll tell you we got a lot of dirty work, but seriously, working with these guys was really important to us as college people. Most of us had grown up around here, and then to come back and work with our friends and neighbors and the people that we admired. And it was a real family at the slime plant, so that was important also.
Very good to work for. I always liked the freedom on the job. That means that when we weren't making changes on the press floor, we had the liberty of reading whatever we wanted to read, and I did, in my case, drew pictures.
Well, we didn't have helmets back in those days. We did have safety glasses, and we did have hard-toed shoes and so forth, but we didn't have to wear hard hats at that time. And there were a lot of places to bang your head, and if we were up on the catwalk or even up on top of the presses, there were a lot of pipes and so forth, and yeah, you really had to be careful, and you'd bang your noggin every once in a while. I think a picture that you have shows a fellow, they're working on one of the presses, and he's got a big bandage right here and probably cracked his noggin up on one of those pipes while he was up on top of that press. Yep.
Well, I say it's some transformation. I was kind of shocked, I guess. I knew it'd be different, but it's pretty hard to, from looking at the catwalk up there, when they got up there, there was the first unit over there, and then the second where the shift boss was, and then the third unit. There was 10 presses on the first unit. I don't know, 5 or 6 for the shift boss, because he had a lot of other jobs, more important things to do. And then another 10 on the third unit.
But I was very confused like the other guys when we first came in, because we were on a floor that we normally didn't come in on. We normally came in on the press floor up above. But once we got to where the catwalk was and where everything, then you can recognize where we are. But I was very confused at first.
Oh, we were talking about that. All of us were disoriented when we first went in, simply because they had changed the bottom floor so much, the kind of ground floor that we came in on. And there were parts that exist now that did not exist when we were working there. And we were somewhat disoriented to begin with. But once we got up on the press floor and out toward the outside where we could see the windows and so forth, then we pretty much got reoriented and could tell where we were. We were impressed with a couple of the areas. The one area, of course, was the huge foundation that existed all around the building, and they have left it exposed in a couple of areas there so people could see what it looked like. And then up above, of course, the beautiful beams and wood things that ran all over the places, including the catwalks and so forth. They've left most of those. And those really brought back memories for all of us as we walked in. That was the first thing we did, looked up and, oh yes, we remember all of those things up there. And the fellow that was one of the bosses over there just now told us that they actually still could see some of the charred area. There was a small fire at one time at this left end as you look at the slime plant. And they left those beams in there, but they're charred, and they said you could still see those up there.
We just like our locale, like the way, well, like I say, freedom on the job. Can be any better than that.